thank you so much for clicking on today's video. I'm really excited to be sharing with you guys 4 different recipes that we love in our family. Now 3 of them are going to be using this pork that I'm showing you guys right now. So this is how we prep up our pork shoulder. We are just seasoning it up really well with these different seasonings that you see here on your screen. I'm going to make sure to list all of these seasonings down below in the description box, along with like step-by-steps to the recipes for you guys, just to make it a little easier. But this is how we prep up our pork shoulder. Now, as you see here, we are searing it in our cast iron skillet. Now, this is just to make sure all those seasonings stick to that pork before we add it to our crock pot. In our crock pot, we're going to be using these liquids. We're going to use about half of each of these bottles that you see here. We have pineapple juice, a beer, and then we have some Sunny D. You can use any orange juice that you would like to use and any beer that you choose, or you can omit the beer if you want, but this is just how we like to do it. It gives it so much flavor. This pork is absolutely delicious. Now, after you add your liquids to the crock pot, you're going to go ahead and put a lid on this, and depending on the size of your pork, you can cook this for 6 to 10 hours on high, and when it is finished, it'll just fall apart with a fork. Now, for the juices in the crock pot, we already took them out and we have them set aside like this, and we will just add it once we have shredded up some of the meat. We're going to add a little juice at a time, and we like to keep some juice on the side. Can see my 3-year-old is already going in for some. This is absolutely delicious when it is done. We like to season it up a little bit when we are using it with other things, but I'm going to show you guys that a little later on in the video. For the first dinner, my oldest son was at a birthday party, so he was eating dinner over there. He was just a couple houses down from us, and my little ones were the ones home for dinner. So what I did was grilled cheese with the pork, and they split an orange, and this is how they did. My youngest ate most of his pork and a little of his grilled cheese, and then my oldest, she ate a little bit of her grilled cheeses, and that was it. And then for the second dinner, using this pork, we are going to make these Cuban sandwiches. For this, you are going to need some of that pork left over, and as I mentioned, we seasoned it up a little bit, so we have some Sazon and Adobo in there. And then we have some lettuce with some mayonnaise and mustard mix with some seasonings, pickles, salami, ham, and some provolone cheese, and of course your classic mayo mustard mix for your Cuban sandwich, and then our Cuban bread. For the Cuban bread, I like to go ahead and cut off the ends of it, so I'm going to show you guys that here. I'm just evening up the sandwiches and making a slice for me and Dad, and then a little slice for the kids, because I'm not sure how they're going to like Cuban sandwiches. You guys will see how I played it up in a little bit for the children. Let me just go ahead and show you guys how I build up the sandwiches, and then we are going to put them on the griddle and let them cook for a little bit. And I tell you guys what, I'm not sure if I'll be making these for the kids again. However, I will be definitely making these for me and Dad. Every time we make the pork, we like to make the pork shoulder like once a week. That way we just have some pork in the fridge or in the freezer to eat all week long. So this is definitely going to become a new staple in my house for me and Dad. about you guys, but this is making me want another Cuban sandwich. These are so good. Like I mentioned before, they were literally just mouth-watering, and just watching it again makes me want another one. But this was the Cuban when it was all done and cooked up. And I'm going to show you guys what I plated it with for dinner. That looks so good. So for dinner, I added some onion rings to me and my husband's plate. And then I had a couple of sweet peppers with hummus with mine. And he just had some sauce to dip his onion rings in. And it may look like a small plate to some of you guys, but this was enough to fill both of us up for sure. And the kids, I did some tater tots because that's a safe food for them. And then I also did some carrots and sweet peppers for them because my boys do like carrots and sweet peppers a little bit. My daughter, she doesn't like very much of anything, but she does like tater tots. And I thought she would kind of pick out her Cuban sandwich. And that was their dinner tonight. Now for this next meal, it was only for me and their dad because this was a meal that I knew my kids want to eat. So I made some enchiladas, and I did use a little bit of that pork from the first one, but we also had some leftover taco meat in the fridge, so I used that as well. And then I made our enchilada sauce from scratch. So I'm going to be sure to leave exactly how I made this in the description box below. But after I made it, like following the recipe, I went in and added some green chilies, and I also added in some ghost pepper hot sauce. This is like a homemade one. It is really good, and it made this enchilada sauce next level. So I just let that cook on low on the stove for a little bit, and then I started prepping up my enchiladas. So at first I grabbed my tortilla, and then I had some taco meat that I added in here, some cheese, and then I went ahead and put down the enchilada sauce because you want to coat the bottom of your dish with enchilada sauce. And then I make a couple of them with some ground beef, and I make a couple of them with some of that pork from our first recipe in the video. And I add those all to the baking dish, and you guys will see that I make some with corn tortillas because my husband is a big fan of corn tortillas, so I made sure to make him some with that. And I will tell you guys what, they totally fell apart. You guys will see a little later on. So I'm going to just go ahead and show you guys how I make these. And I hope you guys enjoyed the little clip that I add in a few minutes showing you those corn tortillas. It was such a fail, and I felt so bad. Now to go along with this, I had some leftover corn, and I didn't want just any old corn, so I decided to make it elote, and I used 1/3 of a cup of mayo and 1/3 of a cup of sour cream, and I mixed that together really well. And then I used a little less than 1/3 of a cup of Parmesan cheese, and I mixed that in until it was really well blended with everything. I'll also go in with some lime juice, and then a little bit later I go in with a little more lime juice because after tasting it, it definitely needed it. And then some seasonings, and that is how I make my little creamy sauce for the corn. And then I heated up the corn, added a little bit of this to it, and then the rest of it will just go in the fridge in case we have corn again and I want to make this. And that's how I make this, super simple and easy. Now that everything's ready, I am just plating everything up on me and my husband's plates. Like I said, the kids had a different dinner than this, so that's why I'm not sharing their plates this time. I added a little paprika to that corn, and then here I am plating up those enchiladas. I hope you guys get a little laugh at me reacting to the mess that I made on my husband's plate.
I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. It doesn't even look edible.
Now looking back on it, it kind of looks like a taco pizza or a taco pie that I made one time. Oh my god, it was so bad, but it tasted so good. I served it with some queso and sour cream, and that was our dinner. It was absolutely delicious. We both really enjoyed it, and I'll definitely be making this again and again. Now for this last recipe, we are making a Puerto Rican chicken soup. This is a dish that my husband makes. It is absolutely delicious. There's a lot going on in this soup, but I hope you guys will follow along because you are really going to want to make this one at home, especially for the fall months coming up. I'm going to quickly share with you guys what you need, and then we are going to get right into making this absolutely delicious soup. All you're going to need is some oil, garlic, some carrots, and some onion. You're also going to need some potatoes, and then we have some sofrito, some chicken broth, some chicken legs, and all these different seasonings in the back are going to be what we're seasoning up our chicken with a little later on. And the tomato sauce is also going to be going in the soup. You're also going to need some water, and this is just the sofrito that I mentioned. It's frozen. We get it at our local Spanish market, and we just freeze it. That way we can use a little bit as we need. Absolutely delicious. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it. I wanted to quickly share with you guys these salt and pepper shakers. We got these on our trip recently to Connecticut. I think we were in South Carolina and we saw these at a Cracker Barrel and I had to have them. I thought they were so cute. And this was the kids' dinners for that night. So I served their soup along with a bunch of safe foods because I wasn't sure how they were going to like the soup. So we did some white cheddar mac and cheese, some ribs, apples, and then the soup on the side. And that was their dinner. And I'm going to show you guys how they did with it. And thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing a few different dinner ideas, and I hope you use some in your home with your family. And we will see you guys next time for another video. Bye!